Today, we're showing why we think Japan is the most unique country in the world, while bringing you along on our amazing 72 hours in Kyoto. This is our third trip to Japan, and out of the 100 countries we've traveled to, we think Japan is the most unique of all.
Throughout the video, we'll go through 10 points to demonstrate why we think that is. And stay tuned until the finale because some of the most important points come at the end. Let's go. Good morning, guys, from Kyoto in Japan, where we are spending 3 days.
Oh, it's another magical spring day. We're so happy to just be outdoors and soak it in.
So our first stop of the day, I intentionally looked up spots that were a bit more off the beaten path. So we're walking up these like almost 500 steps up to the top of like a mausoleum.
I'm scared just because I'm still a little nauseous from our food poisoning a few days ago. We just completed this. Oh my god.
I feel kind of bad because I was like, you know, Dan, I don't think there's gonna be more steps than this. I was probably not even halfway. We made it. Whew. So this place that we just hiked up to is the mausoleum of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who was a samurai master and one of the first great unifiers of Japan. Japanese history is so fascinating, it's so rich, it goes back so far, and it's really interesting how just a few key events and decisions in Japanese history have really contributed to conserving this unique culture here. Between 1633 and 1853, Japan implemented the Sakoku isolationist policy, which heavily restricted foreign trade. This was done to minimize foreign influence on Japan, especially in the form of Spanish and Portuguese missionaries who had started converting people to Christianity. Some foreign trade with Asian neighbors was allowed in certain provinces, but the only European trade allowed was with the Dutch through Dejima, an artificial island the Japanese quite literally built for this kind of foreign trade. The point is, Japan went through a lot of effort for a long time to preserve its unique culture and heritage, a legacy that lives on until today. We're heading there next, and I think there's going to be a lot more people from the looks of it. Okay, but Dan, I have one thing to say.
Hey. I was just reading about cherry blossoms, and apparently they've been bred over the centuries to produce a higher quantity of flowers and more beautiful flowers, so they don't actually grow very big cherries, and the cherries don't taste good, so that's the sacrifice.
I think that goes very well with Japan's strive for aesthetic.
So I don't know if they're supposed to have a stronger smell. Maybe it depends on how ripe they are. They have a very faint, sweet smell. Japanese cars are the car equivalent of pugs.
Today we're fully embracing the old Oskar and Dan from like 2016, 2017. We would always literally just walk around every place that we went to, every city, without any goals sort of in mind. And I'm really liking this return to that, just kind of like seeing what we find and not feeling so tied to like the main tourist sites or like, you know, having to go to certain places. I feel like you get a sense of the place in a much more organic way.
So we're having a little family mart lunch or snack.
Yes, convenience stores are unique to Japan, but the way Japan does convenience stores is amazing.
I'm so excited to try this.
And I am beyond excited for one of my favorite snacks in the world, the red bean azuki.
Japan runs on convenience stores, or konbinis. They can be found on quite literally every corner of Japanese city centers, and the assortment goes beyond food to electrical devices and financial services. The food is typically cheap and of surprisingly good quality. Let's try this tofu pudding. Wow. It tastes like almost like a firm version of milk tea. We're getting this again.
Right, here we go with this one. Even the convenience store ones are good. It's crazy how if you just walk on like a little side street, like literally like 2 or 3 meters away from the main street, there's no one and it's completely quiet, and then you just step onto the main street and there's a horde of tourists. I'd say maybe 85% are Japanese tourists.
It's also fascinating because I feel like this might be one of the few places outside of the Americas where you see more American tourists than European tourists. Interesting.
Yeah,
at least from what
that's
I've
true.
heard.
Yeah.
my gosh, look at this.
We got curry udon. Oh, sorry.
Hello?
Wait, I'm getting my, what do you call this?
Oh, your bib.
This is the most fun part of the meal.
I think it's the most important part for us. After curry for dinner yesterday and this for lunch, I'm wondering how soon we'll be dying to have something fresh.
Yeah.
Oj, ser så jävla varmt ut.
Gud, jag är inte alls hungrig.
Nej, inte jag heller.
Det är fel tid på dagen för att... There really are too many temples in Kyoto to see them all. Like, you'd need weeks, months.
Traditional Japanese architecture and art has a very distinct aesthetic. While we're no experts on architecture or design, certain Japanese ideals like wabi-sabi and yugen contribute to making temples and pagodas here look and feel very different from others in East Asia. We're literally about a 2-minute walk from the most busy, hectic little Sakura temple area, and now we're here all alone. There's so many beautiful places here in Kyoto, and we're just trying to take everything in without rushing around too much, without being like, we need to take this and this off.
Another reason why Japan looks and feels so different is the fact that it was never colonized. Depending on how you define colonization, different countries could qualify, such as Thailand, Ethiopia, and Saudi Arabia. But there's only one country that consistently appears on every list regardless of how you define it, and that is Japan. In fact, Japan went on to become a huge imperial power and colonizer itself, occupying much of East and Southeast Asia until its defeat in World War II.
This is
Starbucks. I'm kind of pissed about the fact that we went to a normal Starbucks. Good morning, it's yet another day, and now we're walking along the more, I guess, local streets of Kyoto. We're gonna head to have some lunch, and it's another beautiful day outside.
So today we're going for Korean food for lunch, right in here.
We're such traitors! I wish I could transmit the smells to you right now.
It's mainly this.
Yeah, this is amazing. This reminds us of Swedish spring as well.
I was talking to my mom on the phone yesterday about how much I love how safe Japan feels. People don't lock their houses, you leave your stuff out. It's just such a safe place. And she was like, Dan, why are you always so obsessed with safety? Which is funny because we've traveled to so many not safe places, but my whole life I've just been like super obsessed with especially the integrity of my home. Like my biggest nightmare as a kid was for someone to break into our house. So for some reason for me, when I'm in a super safe place, that's when I feel happiest. And then my mom always gets pissed because I don't feel that way about Europe. I don't feel that Europe is necessarily very safe or makes me feel super relaxed in that sense, which is obviously true. You can't leave your valuables outside in Europe and expect them to be there when you get back. A very safe society is certainly not unique to Japan, but it's one of the few countries in the world that boasts such a large population while managing to keep crime rates incredibly low. Tokyo, while being the largest metropolitan area in the world, is also one of the safest cities on the planet. The Japanese generally have a high sense of moral duty and want to do what's right, but it's also a culture upheld by shame and where people will do anything to avoid drawing negative attention and bringing shame upon themselves and their family. What we think is incredible though is that the Japanese are not just courteous and kind toward us foreigners, but they have the same gracious and righteous behavior toward each other. Having traveled to 100 countries, a culture like that where people have so much respect for each other is very rare. Is it embarrassing that we've gotten Starbucks 2 days in a row in Japan? In one way, yes, but in another way, where else are we gonna get vegan soy milk matcha in a not very vegan country? These matcha frappuccinos are incredible.
Now we're in Nishiki Market, and it's safe to say we're not the only people here.
Wow, we found a matcha store. Look, oh, they're grinding it behind.
The smell is like so insanely strong.
Which do you like?
This one.
Oh my god, so excited. We didn't think we'd find like vegan.
It's not that it's a vegan version, it's just vegan naturally. Strawberry mochi with red bean inside.
This beautifully presented Ichigo Daifuku is a great example of Omotenashi. This word is hard to define, but it essentially describes Japan's hospitality and desire to present everything beautifully. This can be seen in food stores where fruit and vegetables are wrapped in quite unnecessary layers of plastic and styrofoam, but it's all done out of this desire to present things nicely for others.
350 yen each, which is an okay price. They are so beautiful, they're handmade.
It said no choice of strawberry.
Yeah. Whoa. It's super kind of rich and intense.
The only thing they give you to eat it with is like a wrapper, like a paper wrapper. You just gotta fish it out without dropping it, hopefully. This plastic is very unstable. Okay, how did you do this? I had to touch it. This looks a bit like a Japanese version of a sembla. One very important thing if you're coming to Japan is book everything in advance. At least a few weeks if you can. We're not used to doing that at all because we usually travel to, I guess, less touristy places. So we're not used to it being like this where you can't just show up and buy a ticket.
Not only that, also for years we've been traveling so back to back that there's been no way to pre-plan that much. We're a little bit unprepared, but we've seen a lot of our friends traveling here have also had the same problem. We just realized we're an hour from our hotel. We had no idea. An hour's walk.
Walking so far. We're like, we don't want to walk anymore. So how do we get back, huh? That's the riddle of the day. But we're also trying to figure out where to have food.
Wow, so we found an amazing dinner place. This is our first time ever getting to try takoyaki with some vegan mayonnaise. And I've always wanted to try Kewpie mayo, also not always, but since it became very trendy on like TikTok and everything. Super good.
And we're finishing off with a katsudon.
Yes, katsudon.
Hi. Very good. Oh, thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu. How sweet. They just randomly came out with dessert for us. We were gonna pay and they were like, no, sit, wait. And we're like, okay, what's going on? So let's see. This is like another type of fried dough ball, I guess. Hot.
Okay. Japanese customer service is out of this world and ties in with the previous point about hospitality. In our experience, the Japanese will go above and beyond to make sure you're happy and comfortable, and they do this without expecting anything in return.
So they said this is like donuts. Like a Japanese churro. Good morning, guys. We are up early, or not that early, but considering that we're still very jet lagged, getting up at 7 a.m. is probably the earliest we could stretch it to today. But it's our last day in Kyoto and we wanted to beat the crowds at probably the most famous site in the whole city. So we're heading there now. All right, we took a taxi to get here because it was 40 minutes walking. We wanted to be early, but we didn't really beat the crowds anyway. It seems like
It's 7:30.
yeah, and our taxi driver was so cute and
He was
like
playing spa music in the car.
yeah. So we told him via Google Translate that it was nice music. Japanese is an insanely difficult language for most people to learn, partly because it's a language isolate with no other known linguistic relatives. While it has borrowed a lot of foreign words, especially from Chinese, the language itself is unique, and it's also the only language in the world to use 3 different writing systems simultaneously. Hiragana for native Japanese words, katakana for foreign words and for emphasis, and kanji, which are approximately 2,000 borrowed Chinese characters. And these 3 systems can all be used in the same sentence. And we made it to the Fushimi Inari pathway. People were like lining up in the spot to take a photo, but it wasn't even that great of a photo spot. But it's like 20 people in one line just waiting to take a picture. I really didn't expect the path to be this long, but we're heading all the way up to the top of Inari Mountain, which is a sacred place within the Shinto religion. It's so quiet. We finally got away from the crowds. It's insane, right? There's only nature sounds. We knew there were a lot of torii gates here, but I think that's how they're pronounced. I don't know if it's torii or torii. We knew there were a lot of them, but apparently there are about 10,000 of them here. So the Shinto religion, although it's coexisted with Buddhism in Japan for over 1,000 years, this is considered the national religion, and this really is another one of those things that make Japan so unique.
Shinto is a part of everyday life in Japan in many ways. Shinto traditions are still practiced and holidays are celebrated, although most of the population isn't religious anymore or comes from a Buddhist background.
We made it to the top.
I love how you always approach people with like a big DSLR asking them to take a picture of you because you think they're trustworthy, but 9 times out of 10 they have no idea what they're doing, and they also end up taking like terrible photos. We just asked this guy, and the photos were like, why are you even carrying that around if this is the type of quality photo you take?
What a beautiful place. We're gonna walk back now to our hotel and have some breakfast. So another 40-minute walk, I think. Our legs are already shaking and it's not even 10 a.m.
In Japan would this be a legal underpass?
This is intense. 1.4 meters. I don't think I've been that short since like 2nd grade. Oh. Made it out alive.
Look at this. So I had to cave in and get a pickle when everyone else was buying them. Oh wow, it's not sour at all. I don't even know if it's a pickle.
Is it a pickle or just like a lemon flavored cucumber?
Yeah, just a lemon flavored cucumber.
Okay, now we barely had time to vlog this. We're heading to a cooking class.
It's hosted by a local woman in her apartment.
So cool. While we could talk about the uniqueness of Japanese food itself, we want the 10th and final point to be more about the preparation process of the food. Just as in traditions like tea ceremonies, Japanese processes and rituals are so systematic and intricate, something we think permeates all of Japanese society. Take your spoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Feeling pretty salty. Anything that is worth doing should be done in a careful, gracious, and systematic way. While this kind of thinking can make some people a little rigid, it often produces beautiful results. And we think the Japanese have an interesting takeaway to share here, which is that the process is often more important and enjoyable than the final product.
Pinch, press, pinch, press, pinch, press, pinch, press, and then last, just press, seal.
Oh my god. You made that look so easy. He is a natural. I made all the failed ones and he made all the pretty ones.
When they're frozen, would you still...
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah,